we are talking about Montana of the Peacekeepers. The Peacekeepers are kind of like your old school 1950s black and white do-gooders. They kind of have that sense of justice. They're a group of people kind of banded together to help out the universe. Montana's bio. When he's not clotheslining bears for fun, Montana can be found on the battlefield, soaking up industrial-sized buckets of hurt and suppressing enemies with his fearsome minigun. A friend to everyone, Montana controls the battlefield with sprays of ice or fire. And sometimes just a good old-fashioned knock the tree down with my shoulder dash. So he's got his massive minigun you can augment with fire or ice. He's got his Lumberjack Dash that we'll go into more details about that to help augment his speed. And some other cool things. So down to the minigun, a truly fearsome weapon. The minigun accumulates heat as it fires, increasing bonus damage dealt. Augments can increase or modify this effect. So as it spins up, it does more. His below here is passive kind of armor stat. Montana's remarkable size allows him to soak up a substantial amount of damage. So once again, he is your big tank. Moving over to the Lumberjack Dash. Montana dashes and collides with an enemy, dealing 208 to 280 damage and knocking them back. If the hit enemy hits an object or ally, they are stunned for 1 second. So with this big body too, you can hit a lot of enemies with this, kind of dispersing everything and then maul them all down. And once again, it kind of helps him get into where he needs to be for positioning. I have a feeling some people might use this like Zero's Execute just to kind of move forward faster sometimes, get into that position they want to get to faster. Halestorm loads a specialized ammunition that slows enemies' hit and uses less heat per shot. Also adds armor that reduces damage taken. So the Halestorm, I think this is kind of that fire versus ice thing. And yeah, it makes him even tankier. Then you have Transformation. Once again, a brilliant name. Stomps the ground, dealing 525 to 750 damage and knocking up nearby enemies. Montana takes reduced damage for 8 seconds after. This is really awesome. So, unless they've changed this, originally, if you guys remember Kids in the Hall, or you haven't watched the Eradicator, look up Kids in the Hall Eradicator sketch on YouTube, because it's one of the great all-time sketches of sketch comedy. A guy kind of squishes his fingers from the distance and says, "I'm going to squash you," and he just sits back there talking shit about people, pretending to squash their heads. It's funnier than it sounds. Actually, it's not the Eradicator. The Eradicator was the tennis guy. Anyways, that's a Kids in the Hall sketch. It's brilliant and hilarious, and he does that when he targets where he's going to land for Transformation. He holds his fingers in front of his head like he's going to squash them, then he literally jumps and goes and squashes them. The reduced damage is awesome as well, because it just makes him tankier and he can really just get in there. And the damage on it is pretty solid as well. Then you have Heatwave. The hotter Montana's minigun is, the more bonus damage it deals. So, yeah, once again, very cool. The longer you fire with that thing, the more you put out. I know it's got a pretty large magazine. I don't know what exactly that is and how long. I'm assuming it has a slow reload as well, but we'll find out more about that as the game comes along. So down to the Helix tree. Go the distance. Increases Lumberjack Dash distance plus 50% dash distance. So that's probably going to come in handy, especially as I said, like, I have a feeling some people can use like Execute, where even if you're not gonna melee that enemy, you're gonna close the distance to get where you want to go. And because he's so slow, I think that'll be a very helpful one to get. Weatherman increases the minigun's accuracy while Halestorm is active, 30%. That's pretty solid as well. We don't know how the thing is going to fire as of now. There has been some gameplay, but that's probably going to be something they tweak. But accuracy on a gun like that will be huge. So both of those are very good, depending on how you want to play them. Then Tier 2, the old 1-2. Montana knocks nearby enemies upwards at the end of Lumberjack Dash. Or, push it, push it, push it, increases the knockback effect of Lumberjack Dash. So, some other characters have this, like a knockback versus a knock up. Until I get my hands on the game and play it, I don't know how these are going to work out, so I don't have much to say about this tier. Tier 3, Pumped Up, increases Montana's maximum health plus 250, or Gatling Grease, decreases the minigun spin-up time minus 30% time. And this one I kind of like the Grease better. I think he's going to have a lot of other tank options, and that spin-up time is going to be pretty helpful, it sounds like, because as you heat it up, it does damage more, you kill the enemies faster, you tank more. Alright, Tier 4, the Cooler. The minigun heat decreases with each shot fired while Halestorm is active, so you cool the gun down during the Halestorm. Firestorm. Your bullets burn enemies, adding bonus damage over time. Increases minigun heat accumulation per shot fired when Halestorm is active, plus 24 damage per second. So, I'm not sure where these are going to work out, kind of the heat versus the cooling. I've seen some stuff of that, and I've read it, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, I saw somewhere, and I don't know if this is still true, but as the gun heats up, it actually starts to hurt him a little bit. So you have to manage that. But as it heats up, it does more damage. I'm not sure where he still stands with all of that. These guys are still in development, so that'll be kind of depending on how all that works on which one of these is better. How much you want to cool it down versus how much you want to heat it up. Cold-blooded. Montana's health regeneration rate increases the lower the minigun heat is. So there some of that is. So decreasing it makes them even tankier. So you do less damage, but you heal more. It's kind of an interesting trade-off. Or hot-blooded. Montana's health regen rate increases the higher the minigun heat is. So the minigun isn't going to hurt you. So yeah, I mean, these kind of go together. You might just want to, I think it sounds more fun just to run it hot and burn people up and do a ton of damage, and then you can heal off that. There's a lot of other characters, like Halestorm. Oh, you do add armor, but the slowing the enemies, there's a lot of characters that slow down enemies. I kind of like Montana just to mow them down and not worry as much about battlefield control or any of that stuff that I would do with a lot of other characters. I like the idea of just Montana just destroying everyone. Swole Shield. Increases Montana's maximum shield strength plus 195. Feeling the burn. Montana's minigun no longer overheats. Every shot fired beyond maximum heat capacity damages Montana. So there that is when I was reading that. Yeah, this is another tough one. So when his gun starts to overheat, you gotta stop firing and let it cool down a little bit, so there is some of that managing. So yeah, feeling the burn between the shield. This is another one where it's going to take some playtesting. I don't know which one of these are going to work out better. It's kind of a wait and see game. He is a tank character, so feeling the burn could look a little scary, especially when you get in the heat of things or during a boss battle when you're probably going to be overheating it and the bosses will probably do more damage to you. Feeling the burn might be a little risky, depending on how much damage it does to him. But if you're also hot-blooded, that might kind of balance out feeling the burn. I don't quite know, but I like the idea of already trying to figure these things out. So now we go to the ice tier. Lumberjack Dash deals extra damage to enemies while Halestorm is active. Or Ice Age increases Halestorm's skill duration plus 2 seconds. Yeah, Ice Age sounds pretty decent because you're stopping it from overheating by using less heat per shot. You're increasing your armor. Extra duration sounds decent on that. Of course, we don't know the duration of Halestorm at this time. And I don't know if you'd want to activate Halestorm and then Lumberjack Dash. I guess that's not bad because you have more armor, so you're a little more durable with that. But I'm not sure on that tier. So, tier 8, Too Big to Fail, reduces the cooldown of Lumberjack Dash 25%, or increases Lumberjack Dash's impact damage plus 15%. I guess it depends on how often you be using that. Because he is slow, and once again, I'm going back to the assumption that I'd be using Lumberjack Dash just to augment his movement speed and get him into location. I like the cooldown there. Bullet Buff intensifies Hailstorm's slowing effect, further reducing enemy movement speed. If Firestorm augment is active, it damages over 3. The overtime effects are lengthened. Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. You slow them down and you increase the dot duration. I don't see a problem with that. Let's see here. Perfect Storm increases weapon damage while Hailstorm is active plus 14%. Either way is more damage, and I think this is another we're gonna have to wait and see and play with it, and it might be another one of those map by map. We don't really know how it's gonna turn out until you kind of play it. And like the devs have said, once again, is a lot of maps are gonna kind of push you towards one skill versus the other, and you're not always gonna go with the same spec, and that is a very cool thing. Big Payback absorbs damage taken while Mansformation damage reduction is active. When Mansformation ends, an area of effect attack is unleashed for 3 seconds, returning absorbed damage to nearby enemies. So, kind of like Athena's Aspis in a way. I mean, he's not throwing that shield. I think it's just a big AoE, it sounds like. But yeah, that's kind of cool. You get in there in the mix of things, you just take a bunch of damage and push it right back. Or Instant Payback. When Mansformation damage reduction is active, incoming enemy fire is reflected back at the attacker. That sounds awesome too. So one of the things you can do with Mansformation there is you can use Mansformation like a jump in front of your allies that need help, just soak up that damage and use it to really push the enemies back. Where they, in PvP, they might just not want to attack you. They might want to kind of get away. So you can use that as kind of a saving grace for an enemy. Or of course, you're also knocking them up. So, it's another way to kind of get them down. And I got a feeling I'm going to use Mansformation kind of as like a nurse saving grace thing quite a bit. I mean, I'll also be using it whenever it's available for cooldown, most likely just to go mess people up. But I like that idea. You can do that. And both of those go really well with this tanking kind of design. So Montana seems really interesting to me. I don't know if he's going to suit everyone because he's that big, slow guy, but I love the look of him. I love his gun. The managing of the heat of the gun is a cool mechanic. I think it's going to be fun. And the different ways to do it with fire and ice. So, yeah, I'm a really big fan of this guy. I'm glad they got something out of the Brothers in Arms game, the Furious 4, I think it was called, that they scrapped. They brought him over to Battleborn. So, yeah, very interesting looking tank character. Often, to me at least, a lot of times tank characters can kind of be dull and boring, but he does not look like that whatsoever. And once again, he looks funny as hell. So Thanks for watching once again. Leave any comments you have below what you think about Montana. If you have not subscribed yet, I appreciate that. And I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.